Hello, I'm Richard Raffan. This is the 18th of the Four Ways videos. My choice this month, and I decided we should make something involving a wheel or wheels. And I'm going to be making a car, something on these lines, and I'll have a look at that in just a second. I'd encourage you to have a look at Sam Angelo, Tomislav Tomašić and Mike Peace's videos, and you'll find the links to those in the notes to this video just below here. So I'll be making something similar to this. This is a bit of a mess really, because the different wheels are made for different vehicles, but essentially this is a centre work project. This is turned between centres. These wheels are also end grain, mostly because it's easy to make a pair of wheels when they're end grain rather than cross grain, and I think they wear better as well if they get bashed around. The wheels are on a dowel which goes through the body. Same in the front, and of course every car has to have a driver, and so there's quite a lot to this, and we'll look at each component in its own little section, and I'm going to start with the body. And when you look at it from the end, you'll see it's not round, it's oval. With this project it's very important to start off with a square block. So we'll have a look at this one first. This is partially made at the moment, so you can see where the wheels will go, and where the driver sits, the hole for the driver is cut at an angle, so he sits back at an angle, and that means that if I want to have much bigger wheels on the back and make this into a kind of beach buggy, then I can do that. And we might see this finished at the end, I'm not sure at the moment. What I have here is a piece of 70mm square, which is I think about about 2 3/4 inch square. It's radiata pine. I bought it, so I knew it was absolutely square. So what I've done on this piece is put a line down center all the way around. I've marked center on each end, and I've put a line here. I'm not sure that's exactly where I'm going to go, but very likely, and I'm going to cut out a little wedge there at about 10 degrees, and that's where my driver's going to sit, and then I'll drill a couple of holes for the wheels. Now, since this car body is going to end up oval, it's very important that you know exactly where center is, because everything's going to be based on that, and you want it all kind of nice and symmetrical. So first thing I'm going to do is to cut out that little wedge, and then I'll drill the 2 holes. Well, the main reason I'm cutting this now is so that I can drill the hole accurately for the driver. Oh, it looks like it's going to be sitting back a little more than I thought. So here we are on the drill press, been a little bit of fiddling around. This is in line with the post at the back, so I've tried to get all this nice and square. The bottom of the drill should be parallel with this, and I've cramped it all down so it doesn't move too much. I just want it in the middle. So the axle holes, the rear wheels are likely to be a bit bigger, so I'll drill that slightly higher, and I want it behind the line at which the driver is going to be sitting, which is on about there, so if I put it just forward of that, that'll be fine. About there. I'm using a 9mm drill for this, for an 8mm dowel, which should be, go slightly lower, smaller wheels in front. Right, so that is now ready to go on the lathe. And the blank will be going between centres, and I'm going to replace the tail centre cone with the cup cone, cup centre. So this needs to be nice and accurate. Get it in the middle. So that's spot on. And just check that before tightening it right up, just by spinning the, getting the wood going around between centres. And again, need a number of centres on here, a number of circles. Right, so that looks about right. If it gets too far off, the car might look a bit lopsided. So nice to have a rest at least the length of the piece. Now, I need to line up some centres, so I just need a number of circles. I shall probably put mount it there. Same the other end. I want the underside of this car almost flat, but not quite. So I need to move on the centre line here, the vertical centre line, and just bring that right out to there. It doesn't really matter too precisely. I'm about the same as on the other end. Tighten that up, put the speed down, because there's going to be an awful lot of space. Now you can do this with a gouge, and I'm using a 1-inch continental gouge, and that is, as people will always want to know, a 1-inch flute, which is 25mm roughly. And I forgot to mention that if I want to know what I'm going to be turning, I can put a line there. So that is what I'm going to have on the bottom of my vehicle. I think I'll take that off with a skew chisel. So, skew chisel, I want to hold the tool comfortably, so I don't want it sticking up too much. Raise the rest. Now the rest is well above centre, that's pretty well horizontal, so I'm a good 1/2 inch, maybe even 3/4 of an inch above centre, but I'm comfortable, which is the main thing. Long point down this time, just because I can see what's happening better up on the top, and I've got the tool pointing in the direction I'm going. So when you've got an awful lot of space to turn, it's really a matter of going where you want the tool to go rather than letting the wood have any say in the matter, and for that to happen you really need to have minimal pressure, tool pressure, against the wood. So it looks very slightly off center, but we'll be able to deal with that later, I think. And try a bit more speed. Long point up now because I'm going the other direction. It's just easier that way. If I try long point down, I'm just too awkward. Right. I think that will probably look alright. I've got a bit of picked out grain there. Try and get rid of that. I'll try that long point up. See what happens. Bring it up a bit at the nose of the car, and we'll just bring this up a little bit at the back. Just because it might make some nice angles at the back. I'm just going to take a little bit more so I'm a bit nearer the center line. I think it'll be alright. Now to sand this, easiest to do it with a block, a rubber block, and I'm using 80 grit to soften the edges. What happens when you're sanding is the leading edge gets slightly more wear than the tail edge, so if you've got reverse, use reverse. That's a better way to do it. This is not going to get a huge amount of sanding because it's going to be either painted or I might make it rusty. But anyway, there's a good start. Come up and round the top sides. It really doesn't matter too much where it goes on the vertical axis. It's when I do the sides and I want to round the sides evenly, that's much more important. I really should have done a prototype and practiced this. So here you're seeing probably what you will, if you make one of these, what you will be going through. Quite nice to have the boat shaped back. Right, coming down the front, I'm going to use the gouge to start with. Now I can begin to see the kind of overall shape, and it would be nice to take a dip out where the cockpit is. This is a continental gouge with a 15mm flute. You could also do this with a 1/2-inch spindle gouge. So you've still got to get down to the driver's hole a bit. So I can tell roughly where the kind of windscreen area will be by the darker bit of wood, but I can also just draw a line across there, and I should be able to see that. So that's where he's going to sit, and we suddenly get a, well, he's going to be well down in there, isn't it? So I can take some of that away. There's a little skip there, which means the tailsin needs tightening up. Right, so we're now getting more of an idea of the shape of the car. Hasn't got very much more to come off there. It's quite chunky up in front. And I've taken this down more than I want, which is irritating. Never mind, it's going to be a more eccentric vehicle, or it might be slimmer. I'm going to do the sides next, and I'm going to move the camera because I can't see what I'm doing where it is. Blend those two curves in. Very careful not to take away the, go too far down there, so I've just about got away with that. Now it's beginning to look like a pretty funky vehicle, so now change across to the other side. So it's going to be not very much holding that bit, and on that circle. Right, so now all I have to do is copy that out here. So I'll mark the entry cut part. It's going to be around there. Got that one up there. That one. Get the weight out of the middle first, I think. Center line still there. Almost taken that cut too far. Handy to have that line projected. I can come down very slightly more. I think that's all this body is going to get. And that could come in a bit. Now I would like to take quite a bit off here, which means pitching it up. And just do that from the center. Now that has now given me a different shape end. There's quite a nice kind of curve coming there. I think I'd like to take that down a little bit more. Smaller, use the smaller gouge. Back to the skew. So, beginning to look quite racy. So, that now gets sanded. And I'm going to put it back on centers, on the center. I think in this situation 80 is probably called for. Okay, so that's running forwards, now run it backwards. And that looks like the body pretty well done. Now all these marks will get cut away, so on the bandsaw. So I'll just leave that for the moment in case I want to do more to it. But that's broadly ready for a pair of wheels, or two pairs of wheels. For the wheels, I've got this remnant of an old bed post. It's a radiata pine. Going straight into these big sharp jaws, and there's a dowel there, so I reckon I can get my two back wheels from here and the other wheels from the back there. Rough down with the skew. One of the advantages of making wheels out of ingrain, like this, grain running parallel to the lathe axis, is that I can make a cylinder and then get two wheels out of that. And that's a bit easier than doing it with cross grain, where the wheels are made individually. So I have rounded corners on the end here, and so I can push it over a cylinder like this, then that tells me exactly where I want to be. We come up a bit in speed, and they're running at 1700. So, wheels are the same size. So the first thing is to trap the end here. I usually use the 3/8 spindle gouge for this. Tool starts on its side. Flat. And the tenon on the end here, which is how I'm going to grip the wheel. So masquerade as a kind of wheel hub. There's a smaller one in there. It's a decoration as much as anything, this one. Now the width of my wheel, need to lay that out next. 30 millimeters will be enough. The face of the wheel there, and I'm going to come in, the little tenon will be about 2 millimeters. That will do me for the moment. Rest on an angle because it's just so much easier coming in than it is with the rest, either parallel to the axis or at 90 degrees to it. Very sharp. Much better. I might just, we'll put one in the middle. So it's trying to look wheel-like. Now this I can't get out again, so it needs sanding. Why did it? So now the part straight in. And if I err at all, it's to make this face slightly dished, this slightly domed, so that I can clean it off and size it properly. So now I need another one of these. It doesn't matter if these are not exactly the same because they're going to be either side of the vehicle. Right, so next thing is to cut the dowel piece out and then I can make the other wheels. Right, so the rest, a small tenon on it, and that can turn around and go into another chuck. So I'll do the big wheels first. So this is going to be the inside of the wheel. I need to face this wheel off so that it is very slightly concave, for about 1 millimeter, and that is so it sits well against the back of the car. The width of this one isn't, that happens to be exactly 1 inch. So we'll be measuring this one in inches. To drill the hole for the axle, got an 8mm drill, and I will wind it in according to the measurements on the quill. 15mm will be about right. quite nice to have some tread. Doing it by eye, I find it easier than trying to do the maths. Little V grooves, arcing the tool into the wood. And sand all that. Now it might be nice to have some black lines here, so this is a bit of Laminex. Over the edges of tiles. Right, do the same again. Right, so there is a pair of back wheels. Finally, I need a driver. This little fellow was a bit taller, but he now fits into the hole I've got in the chassis. The hole is a bit rough, so he's going to get glued in. I can't do much about the quality of the hole inside that I can think of, other than perhaps fill it with flocking, but I think I'll rather glue him in. And he got a bit smaller than the gauge. So Peter Banksy here, and see if I go with that. Take the bottom bit down, use a peeling cut. Right. So that's how high it needs to be. Can't get it in there. Oh, this tool comes to hand, just put a little groove there. And then that'll locate the chuck tool when I turn it round. The wheel's done, ready for assembly. Now, you might notice that this back has changed a bit, and yesterday evening I thought, oh, just take a little bit more off so that when the driver sits in there, he's kind of up above the back a little bit. Just thought he'd look better. So, the wheels go on, the back ones. Now, a good trick, well worth knowing, when you put these, actually glue them on, you need little spacers which go in there. Just make sure they don't bind. So when you come to glue it up, you use those. These are just a bit of plastic cut out of a yogurt carton lid, I think. Just say about spaces. So he works all right, and now it goes off to the paint shop. The front needs cutting off at an angle, and I do that on the bandsaw, or I can also do it on a coarse sander. That might be easier actually, and the same on the back. So here's the end result, finished basically with the faux finish of rust with a little bit of verdigris lumps up on in the body and verdigris on the hubs here. This is just standard acrylic paint, as is the driver. Underneath, these lines come from where the body was sitting, the oxidizing patina. Quite like that. The whole thing moves quite nicely. The back. I was thinking put it on exhausts, but resisted on this one.